When I was 15, I got my first credit card. My mom was very careful with me with it and was always bugging me to make my monthly payments. And as a 15-year-old, I probably needed it, all right? But she was still doing it when I was 22 and in college. And I had to have a little conversation with her that, I'm not 15 anymore. I can handle it, especially since I hadn't missed a payment yet. Today, we're doing a very similar thing when it comes to Native Americans, especially when it comes to gambling and what they do with it. And that is why I propose that the United States federal government should remove all regulation on gambling on American Indian land. So when we get into this, one of the huge problems has to do with education. Native Americans actually have the largest dropout rate of any place, according to the American Indian College Fund. 17% of Native Americans go to college, and most don't complete it either. The head of the American College Fund in May 2000 said, "We get the worst of everything. The lowest test scores, the lowest rates of reading, the highest dropout rates, like really of any minority. Native Americans do the worst in education." All right. And there's a cycle of low expectations that just continues and makes this bad anyway. And so there's really a need for better education, especially on Native American soil, where often the schools can be very problematic. There's also a huge problem with health when it comes to Native Americans. There's disproportionately high numbers of disease that is preventable, such as diabetes, heart disease. While cancer is not preventable, there's not a lot of treatments that go on there. This is the Houston Chronicle reported. And one of family planners at the Department of Health Services in California actually said that there's almost a crisis level of health for Native Americans, especially on reservations. So the tribes need money in order to pay for there to be health services. They're often very much lacking. We can go to a corner, minute clinic or urgent care. They don't have those choices usually on Native American soil. And this is hugely problematic. And then the final thing is there's huge economic disadvantages if you're a Native American. The unemployment rate on reservations, depending on the reservation, is somewhere between 45% and 80%. That makes the unemployment rate during the Great Recession look simple, all right, and small. And the mean income is incredibly meager, well below the poverty line. And the reason now there's a bunch of different reasons why Native Americans have such poor healthcare, poor education, and poor money economies. But a lot of it has to do with a lack of good money, and they're hamstringed. One of the ways they made money often was for them to have casinos. Well, they can't always necessarily have casinos. The 1988 Indian Gambling Regulation Act gives states the ability to negotiate, supposedly in good faith, when it comes to gambling. It is the only thing that states have power over when it comes to Native American tribes. States don't. The state of California can't tell Native Americans on their land what to do except for gambling. It's the one thing they get to, according to this law. And frankly, it's almost like they're trying to be a parent and trying to have states have more sovereignty than they really should do this. And so I propose the following plan. The United States federal government will end all gambling regulations on American Indian land by repealing the Gambling Regulatory Act of 1988. There should be really no need for funding. You're just repealing a law. There's not really a need for enforcement. Since you're allowing them to do stuff, you don't really need to enforce it. And the time frame, it would go into effect January 1st next year. Because gambling involves money, and so for tax purposes, We want it to start on a new tax year. This also gives a little bit of time for people around the area to make necessary adjustments, but there shouldn't necessarily be a huge amount. Now, any gaming that is taking place off Native American soil, the states still do have a chance to regulate, but that's something they've always had because it's not happening on the actual land. So the reason why this solves, one, it can provide education and health will improve with gambling. The White Mountain Apache Nation in Arizona, actually, when they opened up casinos, according to Economic Development Review, they raised a huge amount of capital. They were able to build a 25-bed substance abuse facility to work on substance abuse. They created cultural learning centers to help their culture, youth centers to help their youth and improve, and built an elderly daycare center to improve the health of their elderly people. It shows that when they have these things, that they're able to provide and build up a lot of the infrastructure they need, which helps with education as well as health. The Gila River Indians also passed one, and they were able to increase high school enrollment by 200% by building 2 casinos as well. This shows that it's been used to help education. And in fact, Las Vegas, gambling capital of the United States, has the highest per capita spending rate for when it comes per students, and also on healthcare for people. This also then will help build the economy as well. Because of these reasons, I think this plan should be passed.